Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage on a brisk, chilly Monday morning. It was about 19 degrees this morning. The golf cart didn't start. If I continued to crank it, it might have, but I didn't. I just went to plan B and I coasted it down the hill, put it in the garage, and it'll probably start in a few minutes. I'll pick him up on the afternoon run. That's the golf cart update. Today, unlike yesterday where I assembled a 28 spline Pinion, 31 spline differential, 3.50 gear set street gears, that was yesterday's project. Today, I have all my junk spread out. I'm right in the middle of doing a rear end. I might as well continue. I've collected this stuff over time. Not even sure what I was going to put it in. The night I bought this ring and pinion, several years ago, it was marked to $200. The guy wanted $100 for it. He showed right up here with it. And I bought it. It's funny because that night I remember thinking I didn't have a spare $100, but I bought it anyway because it was a great deal. This gear set new, I just looked it up. If it was available, is call it $600. This is a Pro Gear, 457 ratio. Pro Gears are made out of, believe it or not, a softer material, 9310, compared to the street gears that are 8620. If you go on Strange Engineering's website, they'll tell you that if you can run the 8620, you're better off. It's going to last longer. When you start breaking that, you need to go to the 9310 Pro Gear. Now, this is well documented. I knew the guy that owned the car this was in, and he kept track of everything. One season, 50 passes, and even noted the shim it had in it, 30,000 shim. We, again, on the Strange Engineering website, they suggest this ring gear could last as little as 50 runs and probably a maximum of 300. At 50 runs, I say it's well bought at $100. It uses both sets of ring gear bolts, 7/16 and 1/2 inch fine, and so does my spool that I got from Quick Performance. And I trial fit it, and everything lines up, which is good. I started working on the 35 spline Pinion yesterday. I'm ready to shim the drag, the preload, and assemble that. I had two yokes to choose from. I had a brand new Strange, and I have this that was forged, and this is a billet Quick Performance. There's a 1/4 inch difference in length. Probably not that big a deal depending on your transmission, but I decided to go with the Quick Performance because why not? New nut, the yoke comes with U-bolts. I have extra ring gear bolts, not sure why, because if you can see the installation kit, it comes with everything. It's a master install kit. Try not to dump out my ring gear bolts, but I have my Pinion shims, Pinion preload shims, seal, everything I'm gonna need. Yeah. The Quick Performance 325 side bearing through bolt. It accepts the 10 bolt pinion support, which I have also from them. And I also bought their stud and shim kit. I didn't have any of the 10 hole shims. Standard 9-inch 4 like I used yesterday has 5, so, and it's got both size studs. It also has 2 different size studs, 3/8 and 7/16. So I think that'll come in handy in the future when I add accessories on to the pinion support, like a dry shaft, U-joint enclosure, and potentially, a data recording device. So that's that. I'm going to start assembling it, and it's nice. I don't have to take anything apart. It's all brand new, and it should go together. I mean, the spool doesn't create any clearance problems inside the case like a Detroit locker does. I put a lot of Detroit lockers in these cases, and I got to do some grinding. This should clear by a mile. So let's start on it and see how it goes. Oh, I should also mention, this came just like this, beveled, so I guess it's slightly lighter. Definitely an option, but let's get at it. So I went ahead and did some stuff off camera. I occasionally get some insightful comments, and I appreciate them all. I got one this weekend, and the suggestion was that I should film everything that I'm doing. I guess if I have a style, that's not my style. Like, for instance, yesterday I started watching a video. The guy set up his tripod, got out a 4-inch grinder with a death wheel on it, and the entire video was him cutting the floorboards out of a rusty car. No talking, no nothing, just the grinder going, stuff flying, no safety glasses. Hey, and that's good for him. He has more subscribers than I do. But I can't do that. I don't want to edit that out. I don't want a fast motion. I don't want to put it to music. I am working at the same time. I'm doing these videos, so I like to stop, take you through the whole journey front to back. I don't think you need to watch me put these studs in for 20 minutes, which is what it took me. Because that is how, well, let's call it detail-oriented I am. I drop a Loctite in each one, got to spread the Loctite out. I put the 7/16 in first. The nuts have a mark on them that is going to face outward when I'm done. And I have to turn the nuts around so just the back sides hit together when I use them, double nutted to tighten each stud, because I don't want the nut to look used when I put it back on. You don't want to watch all that. Trust me. The rear end I did yesterday over Saturday night and Sunday, I had 5 hours in it. Nobody's going to watch that video. So I guess if I have a style, my style is to explain what I'm going to do, talk about some details that I think are important to get out there. Do the work off camera sometimes. Sometimes I do the camera on camera, but it just shakes the camera and it just makes a mess. So anyway, that's where we're at. So it looks like we robbed a hardware store, but we put all the bolts in. Again, drop a Loctite in each one. You got to move pretty quick because you need to get the ring gear up on it, which offered no resistance. Well, some resistance, but nothing, you know. Sometimes the ring gears, you almost got to heat them up to get them on there. Not this one that went together really nice. Everything started nicely. Nothing felt funny. So you got to get them all tight, 2 different sizes, and then somehow grab onto it and try to torque it. So we got past that. I pressed the bearings on. I mentioned yesterday for the 325 side bearings, I took a piece of black iron pipe left over from plumbing my heating oil tank in my basement. Cut down the end, so I'm just pushing on the inner part of the bearing. Yesterday's differential stuck down below the bearing. These do not. The cage is the lowest point. So if I set it in the press to press on the opposite side, I'm going to destroy the bearing. So I just used a simple bearing driver, spaced it up off the press. But if you don't notice a detail like that, you're going to ruin an expensive bearing. So that's done. I wouldn't put the cage on it and press it, because while that's better than just wrecking it right off the bat, the cage is still the lowest point. So I was cautious with the studs. I put in all the 7/16 first and tried to assemble it. And I wanted to see if I had a stud problem right there. Clearance problem. I don't want to make something that's hard to take in and out, because I have to take it in and out several times. Well, if you're careful, this goes right in and out. I don't have a stud problem. So, but I put in half the studs, made sure I didn't, or I would have gone ahead and set it up with just half the studs in, because I don't want to fight this in and out, because I'm inevitably going to have it out, well, at least twice, if not 20 times. Who knows? Next, I'll put in my pinion spacer and shims and set the drag like I did yesterday, now on the 35 spline pinion. It's not a conversion from a crush collar, because I don't believe it ever had one. This has been race stuff from the get-go, and it's probably always had a shim pack. I don't know of a big pinion situation where you'd run a crush collar. So once you have the spacer correct for the pinion support, they can stay together forever, and when you change the bearings in the races, it should go right back together with the same drag, unless dimensionally your bearing is different, which bearing specs are pretty close. So in theory, once again, once you set the shim correctly down the road, it should be a non-issue. Kind of the same theory which we tested yesterday and will again today about the this ring pinion was run with a 030 pinion depth shim. All housings should be machined the same, but that's probably more of a wild card than bearings. If you got nice quality bearings, they're held to a much higher standard. So now it's bled over into Tuesday morning because last night I had about 20 minutes of time left. I got the pinion all secured. I nailed the drag on the first try, which always makes me nervous, but it's nice. No problem there. I got everything assembled. You have to be really careful in this particular Yukon housing. You got to put the adjuster up into the cap and then set it down. It goes together one way and one way only. It'll go wrong a few times, but the cap should sit all the way flush and this should still spin easy. So when you get that accomplished, get it loosely tightened down. I'm excited. I'm going to flip it all, paint the compound and spin it around. It won't clear the case. There's a notch near the small inner bearing that they cut, and it's not cut enough. I mean, we're talking a 1/16 of an inch, but she will not go any further than that. So now I get to take it all back apart, grind it, clean it, and put it all back together and try again. I love these Yukon housings, but every one I've had to clearance somewhere. And this one with a spool, I figured it was going to be a home run, but here I go, taking it all back apart. The caps are doweled, which makes them very difficult to get off. I find I tap my rubber hammer and eventually get my scraper on one side, then tap the other side, hitting it on this spot over here, just tapping it with a rubber hammer. And I can get them to pop up. The shims don't fit over the studs that well, so that's difficult. Nothing, is necessarily that hard, just more annoying than usual. Now, that's the spot right there. And I've marked it fatter than it is. It was really only hitting at the bottom, but I'm going to take that whole corner off and hope for the best. If you remember watching Sesame Street, where one of these things don't belong, clean assembly, grinding. They don't go together. But I polished off the corner, cleaned up my mess, put it back together, see what happens. I've been doing the shim boogaloo for about an hour. Tried every combination there is. I only have one shim left. The box is marked that it ran with a 30,000 shim, and the other case it was in, it's a used ring and pinion like I mentioned. This is as good as I can get it. The drive side being more important than the coast, but that is the best I can do. But it'll be okay. This was a challenging one. I started at 30 thousandths, and the drive and coast were a long ways apart. I tried resetting. I started with a 20, and I learned that anything less than 20 thousandths for a shim, it won't even turn. It binds up. The further you put the pinion away from the ring gear, the happier it gets. I have a pretty significant stack in there, probably 50 thousandths worth of shims. But if that's where it's happy, that's where it's gonna run, and I'll know where all my 10-bolt shims are. The only one I got left is a 4 thousandths, and that barely affects any change. It usually takes 3 to 5 thousandths minimum to see any change. So I didn't see the need to drop that one in there as well. I'm going to be happy with the pattern. After a while, I usually just grab a wrench and pull it down through. With sufficient drag on the pinion, I pretty much just go like this and get a reading, but after a while, I went and took turned the rear end sideways, put this on the pinion nut, held some tension on it, and rotate it around 3 or 4 times. And the pattern didn't improve. I just wanted to make sure I was truly seeing everything I thought I was. So in the end, it is what it is. It's a $100 ring and pinion. I've done my best. Now I have to seal up the pinion support, put the O-ring on it, put the 10 bolts and 10 nuts on there, and assorted washers and whatnot that came in the kit. And I always seal up the through bolts under the head because I don't want oil coming out. And torque that up, put the locks on, and we're going to call it done. Catch you in a couple days. Thanks for watching.